There was a season not long ago when I reached a point every grower eventually faces. I had poured time, effort, and even my best homemade compost into the garden, yet the results fell short of what I knew the soil should have been capable of producing. It bothered me because the compost wasn't weak by any means. It was rich, dark and crumbly, the kind of material people brag about. But something wasn't clicking. Plants grew, yes, but not with the vigour I expected. They stalled after early growth, the soil dried too fast, and yields were respectable, but not exceptional. That's when I started digging through old farming journals, wartime home front manuals and field notes written before synthetic fertilizers existed. Over and over, the same theme surfaced. The most fertile plots weren't fed with compost alone. They were powered by abundant zero-cost mulch. Not expensive amendments, not boutique soil boosters. Just readily available organic matter layered in a way that fed the soil more effectively than any compost pile could. I decided to test it, and what happened shocked me. This $0 mulch formula didn't just match my compost, it outperformed it across the entire growing season. Understanding why this mulch formula works requires looking at how nature builds soil. The reason the formula performs so well has everything to do with how soil forms in the wild. Forest floors, prairie lands, and centuries-old farmland didn't build depth from compost piles. They built themselves from falling leaves, dead grasses, and layers of organic material that decompose slowly on the surface. That layering protected the soil, fed microbes, and created the environment where fertility accumulated naturally. Once I connected those dots, I changed my approach. Instead of relying on compost as the main engine of fertility, I use compost only as a starter and let the mulch layers do the heavy lifting. Within weeks, the soil beneath those layers changed. It held moisture longer, resisted compaction, and came alive with earthworms. Even crops planted into rougher ground thrived once the system gained momentum. Building the $0 mulch formula starts with, well, using what your environment gives you for free. The heart of this method is gathering free resources the land provides. The formula itself is simple. Equal parts dry, carbon-rich material, green, nitrogen-rich material, and a thin layer of soil or compost to introduce microbes. The carbon came from fallen leaves, straw left after trimming cereal grasses, and even shredded cardboard when resources were lean. The nitrogen came from grass clippings, green weeds without seeds, or fresh trimmings from garden beds. I layered them directly over the soil in alternating bands, starting with carbon, then green material, then a bit of soil, and repeated the process until I had a thick mat several inches deep. By the time the first rain soaked through the layers, the process had begun. The magic of this formula is that the decomposition happens exactly where plants grow. Instead of spending months turning a compost pile, the soil organisms handle the breakdown naturally. This approach mirrors the old techniques used during the 1930s, when families survived on small plots. They built fertility in place because they had no time to fuss with piles. I saw the same thing unfold in my garden. The bottom layers darkened first, transforming into a soft, rich humus. The upper layers stayed dry enough to prevent weeds, but continued feeding the system whenever they received moisture. Microbial activity surged. You could lift a section of mulch and find fungal threads woven through the carbon materials, an unmistakable sign that nutrient cycling was underway. One of the clearest signs that the formula was outperforming compost came during a dry spell. Beds mulched with this system held moisture far longer than compost-amended beds. The soil stayed cool and damp underneath, allowing plants to push roots deeper and remain productive, while other beds wilted. In one test row, I planted tomatoes into my best compost and planted an identical row into the $0 mulch formula. The mulch row outgrew the compost row by the 4th week, set fruit earlier, and required far less watering. The reason was simple. The mulch layer shielded the soil from sun and wind, while the compost could not protect itself once mixed in. To use this system, start by gathering whatever free materials you have in abundance. If you live near trees, rake the leaves and dry them. If you mow regularly, save the clippings. If you have access to paper or cardboard, shred it so it breaks down easily. Spread a generous layer of carbon materials over the soil first. Add your nitrogen layer next, making sure it is moist enough to encourage microbial growth. Sprinkle a light layer of soil or compost on top, then repeat until you reach a depth that blocks light but still allows airflow. Water the bed thoroughly so the materials settle together. Over the next few weeks, replenish the beds whenever the top layer thins out. The goal is to maintain a slow decomposing blanket that constantly feeds the soil beneath. By the end of the season, the transformation was undeniable. Worm populations multiplied, soil colour deepened, watering needs dropped, and every crop, from squash to onions to beans, produced better than the plots enriched with my best compost. This $0 formula didn't just save money. It created a sustainable, historical, field-tested system that echoed the old ways farmers built fertility without modern inputs. If you found this guide valuable and want more proven techniques like this, make sure you subscribe to Husbandry, share this video with fellow growers, and help keep real agricultural knowledge alive.